Hey graphic designers, this is Mr. Granlund. I'm going to go through the second part of doing the salad man. Now right now I'm on the PDF file that you'll find in the Giuseppe Arcimboldo tutorial. So if we go down here, this is the lesson I'm working through, and this is going to be the video portion of that. So I'm going to hop over to Photoshop and I'm going to do a quick mask on this cucumber for the face. So here are the cucumber pictures. Down at the bottom, there is this icon in the lower left-hand mode area, and it's called Quick Mask Mode. I'm going to click it, and what this allows me to do is to use the paintbrush tool to create a quick mask. And I'm going to create a mask on the outside of this cucumber. And I'm not going to be super precise at first. I'm just going to get a rough mask, and you notice I'm painting in everything kind of a pinkish reddish color, and everything that is selected here is going to be cut out, and then whatever is left normal color that I can paint with white or erase, that's going to be what I select. So here I'm going to zoom in, pushing Control plus, and I'm going to refine this mask until I get it exactly around the edge the way I want to do it. I'm going to do this and then come back in just a second. Now as you can see, I've cut this out. I've refined my edge using the paintbrush tool and the eraser tool and everything else to get a nice selection around it, and you can see the outside is pink. I'm going to turn off Quick Mask Mode in the lower left hand corner, and that's going to turn this red area into a selection. So now you see the marching ants right around the cucumber, and I'm going to turn this into a layer mask, which has a similar icon at the bottom of the layer palette. And there we go. We have the cucumber cut out. I'm going to resize this and put it on the face as the nose of my character. Now you're free to use this as you see fit on your character. There we go. On to the next vegetable. The next vegetable I bring in is cauliflower. Now there's something interesting about the cauliflower file type. This is a .png file, and when you have a .png file like we do here, if I click on this, this image is a .png, which means it already has a transparent background. So sometimes what you can find when you're searching in Google is a .png file. Now it only works if you download the image and then bring it in. And that's what I've done here. And so my cauliflower is actually already cut out, and I can just resize it and put it on for the ears. If we're following along in this, we come to the pickle, and we have this icon here, which is the magnetic lasso tool. And so I click on the lasso tool, and I get to the magnetic lasso tool. Now, a word of warning, this usually has not been working in the lab so far. So if you click on this and it stops following, or Photoshop stops working is what's been happening, you're going to probably have to exit out and then use a different tool. What it's supposed to do is once you click, it's going to try and follow an edge as I bring the mouse around. And if I'm close enough, it'll snap right to the edge, and I can click on the end to finish up the selection. Maybe refine my selection by clicking Refine Selection, and then create a layer mask to cut it out. Size it to fit on the mouth. Make sure it's in front of the other layers, but not the nose. Control plus to zoom in. And I'm going to duplicate it with Control J or holding Alt on the keyboard to make 2 lips. Alright, now on to the next vegetable. In this step we're going to use the paintbrush, but we're going to use a type of paintbrush that looks like grass here, and what it does is it uses 2 different colors to create this kind of grass look here, and we're going to use that to make some hair. So over to Photoshop, grab the brush tool, go up to the top here, and scroll down until you find the grass tool. So there's a couple of grass tools. There's this one, which is just fine, or then there's this one, which has kind of multiple tufts. Both are just fine. Make a new layer on the layer palette. You can also do Control-Alt-Shift-N to create a new layer if you want to. And we're going to select a background color and a foreground color and paint some hair. So I'm going to select a different color green, and then I just paint it back and forth, and what it does is it randomly spits out a different color grass brush between these two colors. Just even it up there. All right, now on to the next step. We're going to select these chives, and one of the things that is tricky to do with this kind of selection are all these in-between areas. We want to make sure that we cut out all of the blank space in between, but not having to slave over it by clicking on the selection tool again and again and again. So the way we do this is by selecting a color range. So we're going to hop over to Photoshop, bring in our chives, and I'm going to put that on top. Go up to the top where it says select. I'm going to go to color range. So I'm going to select the color range, and I'm going to click on the white area here, and I'm going to set this fuzziness slider to somewhere in the hundreds. And what that's going to do is it's going to select the white areas in between these chives. And looking at this selection, I'm going to try it again and set the fuzziness just a little bit higher. This sometimes requires you going back and forth a bit. That looks like a good selection. I'll go ahead and click Refine Selection, and then I'm going to invert my selection by doing Select and Inverse, and then click on the Layer Matte button, and there are my chives. I'm going to rotate them and size them up, put them into place. I'm going to use these for my eyebrows, so I'm going to duplicate them. And on to the next step. The next step is to cut out a pair of glasses. And so to do this, don't use the picture that you find on Schoology. Go to Google Images and find a picture of glasses. Right-click, copy the image, and bring it into Photoshop here. I recommend using your magic wand tool and just clicking on the bridge of the glasses right here. Make sure your tolerance is high enough so it selects most of the glasses. You can go ahead and touch up your selection as you need to. Click on Refine Selection up at the top, and then click on the Layer Mask button. Size that and put it into place on the face of your character. Our next step is to do two things. One, we're going to put a Gaussian blur on the background to make the background seem a little bit fuzzier, like if it was photographed. And then we're also going to tint everything a little bit blue. So hop on over to Photoshop, and we're going to go to the background store picture, and we're going to make it look more blurry so our focus is centered on the person in front. Click on Filter, go to Blur. We're going to go to Gaussian Blur. Now the automatic setting might be too much, and you'll have to play around with this. As I'm looking at it, somewhere in the 3 pixel neighborhood looks really good, so I'm going to click OK there. That causes some separation with the background. I'm going to go to the top and create a new adjustment layer, clicking on the 50-50 circle in the layer palette. I'm going to go to solid color, and I'm going to select a bluish color and change the blending mode from normal to color. Now this is entirely too blue, so I'm going to go to the opacity and turn it down to about 40%. What that does is it colors the entire picture a little bit blue, and it makes all the colors kind of meld together so it looks more realistic, as if it was photographed. Now on to the next step. The last several steps is to put in this text, this speech bubble, some text, and then cut out this funny character and the salad shooter in the background. To start off with, we're going to go click on the shape tool. It might be the rectangle tool. We're going to go down to the custom shape tool. We're going to go up to the top, and in here there should be a number of different shapes. We're going to find the speech bubble shape. We're going to make sure the fill is set to white. We're going to click and drag a nice size speech bubble out. Now my stroke width is set way too high, so I'm going to turn that down. That looks good. And to turn it around, I'm going to do Control T. I'm going to switch the side adjustments. Now I'm going to type my message by clicking on the text tool, making sure my text color up at the top is set to black, and type in a message. And move it into the text bubble. Now I'm going to go get the last couple of pieces, cut them out, and paste them in. Feel free to use any sort of selection method that you've used so far to cut these items out and finish off your picture. Again, make sure that you're using layer masks just to have the best practice that you can inside of Photoshop. As you can see, I'm using the quick selection tool. And after I make my layer mask, I'm going to also make it even better I'm going to make my selection better by clicking on the Refine Selection tool up at the top. And then I'm going to further refine it by painting in the layer mask for that layer, getting rid of the gun and softening the edges with the paintbrush tool. Shift my brush hardness to 0, erase out the gun there, soften some of these edges. Especially when you have an object that has a lot of hair, having a soft edge where there's hair ends up working better. Size this. And then to put it into the hands here, I'm going to erase away part of the selection on the layer mask. So using the paintbrush, erase out part of the handle so it looks like he's gripping the machine, and size it to fit. The last step is to go to File, Save As, and save this as a JPEG file to turn in to Schoology.